Hi, Honors Ninth Grade Language Arts. This is your October Vocabulary Flipped Classroom PowerPoint. You will need your October Vocabulary note sheet that was given out in class on Tuesday in order to complete this assignment. So this is the note sheet you should have in front of you, and I'm going to give you the information for the date handed out, date the notes are due, and the quiz date. So, the date that was handed out was in class on October 13th. The day that the notes are due will be October 15th, which is a Wednesday in class. And then the quiz date is going to be announced just because we have so much going on with Havasupai and other things. I'm not exactly sure how quickly we will get through all of the grammar tips, so I'm going to leave that to be announced and we can fill that in later. So in the prefix, suffix, root section, we're actually going to review some suffixes this time. We're going to be reviewing ones that you will use in multiple classes, not just in language arts, but also in other subjects. So you're going to be writing this on the top half of the front. The first one is ism. And if you remember, suffixes go at the end of words. Ism you see a lot in social studies and in science. So ism makes something into a system, a condition, or a manner of being. So for example, communism is a system of government. Alcoholism, a condition. Heroism, a way you might act with great heroism. The next suffix is ness. This has two meanings, quality or a state of. So you can take a word like kind, and when you add ness on it, it's basically the state of being kind or the quality of being kind. And the other example, greatness. The next one is ous. This means full of something or having something. For example, dangerous, full of danger. Glorious, full of glory. The next suffix is eyes, and this is to make. So organize. Terrorize would be to make terrified. And next is able and able. Whether you use the A or the I depends on the word in the letters in front of it. So able and able means capable of. And this is nice and easy because able is the suffix and then capable actually has able in it. So for example, edible, capable of being eaten. Visible, capable of being seen. Expandable. The next section is the commonly confused words, and we actually just have one set of commonly confused words. This is a very commonly confused one, even among adults. So you'll be writing this on the bottom half of the front. So we'll go through two words. Each word gets its own row, and then I'm going to tell you guys about an exception to this rule. So our commonly confused words are good and well. People use this incorrectly all the time, which is why when you first learn this rule, you may actually find that it doesn't sound quite right to you when you are actually using it correctly. And that's just because you've been hearing it wrong for most of your life, probably. So good and well have the same general meaning, except good is an adjective. Adjectives modify or describe nouns, people, places, things. So for example, this is a good book. It's describing a book, that's a thing. That car is in good shape. It's describing the condition of the car. So kind of my tip and trick for this is good is always going to be used with a noun, and they both have O's in them. Well, on the other hand, is an adverb, which means it only modifies or describes verbs, actions. So for example, you sang that song well. Even though song is near well, it's describing how it was sung. He runs well, describing that verb, runs. So just like good and noun both had O's, well and verbs both have an E. So you can think the O goes with the O, the E goes with the E. Now, to make this extra confusing, there is a big exception to this rule. So normally, good goes with nouns, well goes with verbs. The exception is if you have a verb that deals with your 5 senses, feeling or sensing, instead of using well like you normally would, you're actually going to use good. So for example, the cake smells good. Smelling is one of our 5 senses. We would never say the cake smells well. That just sounds wrong, doesn't make sense. Even though smell is a verb, we're actually going to pick good because it is a verb of feeling or sensing. Same with the meal tasted good. Again, the meal tasted well, that just doesn't sound right because this is a verb of sensing or feeling. So that's why if somebody says, "How are you?" the correct English grammar would be, "I am well." But if someone asks you how you feel, you would say, "I feel good." So you can see the difference there between I am well, am being a verb, versus I feel good, because feel is a verb of sensing or feeling. And here is just some English teacher humor for you related to good and well. I have a couple of these. If you can't figure them out, you may not fully understand the rule yet. And here's the second one. I always think that this is a good visual to just have in your brain to help you remember when to use well. Last section is our vocabulary words, and all of these words actually come from poems that we will be studying throughout this poetry unit. So you'll be writing this on the back, and remember, you do need an example. You're welcome to make up your own examples or use mine. The first vocab word is optimistic. This is an adjective, and it means to have a positive worldview. For example, even if your grade is low, try to remain optimistic. Now, optimistic does not mean you have to be a shiny, happy person all the time. It's just you look on the bright side, and if things get bad, you believe that they will get better. The next word is actually the opposite of optimistic, pessimistic. And this is having a negative worldview. Example, Jake's pessimistic attitude affected all of us. And again, pessimistic doesn't necessarily mean depressed or somebody who's always bringing other people down, even though that was in the example. Pessimistic just means when things go bad, you kind of expect it. Oh, yep, that's the way the world is. Makes sense. You don't always believe that they're going to go your way. The next word we actually saw during our magnetic poetry activity is torrent. Torrent is a thing, and it is a violent stream of rushing water. The example, the river turned into a torrent during the spring snowmelt. And hopefully we'll have enough snow this year to actually make that sentence become true. The next word you see a ton in Poe is seraph. Seraph is a noun, and it's a type of angel. It's one of the highest order of angels. So, in a lot of different types of mythologies and belief systems and religions, there are different levels of angels, and a seraph would be one of the highest levels. And I actually put the plural form in the example. So, if you have more than one, the plural of seraph is actually seraphim. We will see this in The Raven, which we will be reading. Poe often uses celestial beings like seraphim in his poetry. The next word is respite, and you want to pay attention to the pronunciation. I know it looks like it should be respite because it has that E at the end, but it's actually respite. It's a noun, a thing. It means a period of rest or relief, kind of a delay, taking a time out, having a nap, taking a break. For example, October break was a nice respite from the stress of school. Melancholy is next. This is an adjective. If something is melancholy, it's depressing in spirit or it causes sadness. For example, the melancholy sky was covered in clouds. It was depressing. It caused you to feel sad. The next word is obeisance. This is another kind of tricky one to pronounce, so you may even want to say this one a couple times to yourself. Obeisance. So this is related to the word obedience, and I think you'll see why when you see the definition. Obeisance is actually a thing, and this is when you move your body in a way that shows respect. A movement of the body made as a sign of respect. It can be a handshake, it can be a head nod, it can be a bow or a curtsy. The actual thing you do to show respect is obeisance. So it's kind of tough because it is a noun. So for example, the servant's obeisance came in the form of a bow. The next one you may remember from Annabel Lee if you had me in 7th grade, and that is dissever. Dissever is a verb, and it means to separate completely. So die or dis means away from, and sever means cut. So if you really know your prefixes and your roots, it means to cut and then to take away. So to separate completely. For example, the zombie paid no notice when its arm was dissevered by the machete. The next word is ominous, and you may want to star ominous and melancholy. Just in the left-hand column, kind of put a star between these two. A lot of people mix up melancholy and ominous. So melancholy is something that's causing sadness. Ominous is just showing evil or misfortune to come. So with ominous, nothing bad's happened yet. It's just the environment makes it so you would predict something bad is going to happen. So, for example, the ominous clouds caused the soccer game to be canceled. It wasn't storming, thundering lightning yet, but the clouds made it seem like it would, so the game was just canceled. And that's a big difference from melancholy, which is more related to sadness. Here is another one from Annabel Lee, sepulcher. Sepulcher. It's pronounced like there's a K where the CH is. This is another one you may want to practice pronouncing, sepulcher. This is a thing, and it is a tomb or anywhere that someone or something, but usually a person, is buried. So it can be an official tomb or grave site, or it can be kind of a metaphor. So in Annabel Lee, it talks about her sepulcher down by the sea. We're not sure if she's actually buried there or not. If somebody's ashes were scattered somewhere, that place might become their sepulcher. So it doesn't have to have a literal meaning. And the example here, which is true, many people visit Poe's sepulcher each year. The next one is credible. This is an adjective, and this is something that is capable of being believed or trusted. We're going to talk a lot about this when we read some articles about how Poe died. Is it credible? Do you believe the theory? Do you trust it? Example, Mr. Mitchell obtained statements from several credible witnesses. Another word that relates to the sources we'll be reading when we read about Poe's death is critical. Now, sometimes critical can mean negative, but not in the definition we're learning today. So in the definition we're learning today, it just means to use careful judgment, to really look at all the facts carefully and then make some kind of determination. So for example, this essay will require you to apply critical thinking skills, carefully judging the information. That is the end of the vocab words, so every single section, row, column on your note sheet should be filled up if you've done it correctly. We are going to be learning 2 grammar tips during the flipped classroom and then later throughout the weeks. So we'll be talking about capitalization and then also citing sources throughout the next couple of weeks. Great job. Thank you for your attention. You're going to put these notes in tab 2, and they should actually be the only thing in tab 2 that's not paper clipped together. And I will see you guys on Wednesday.